Hello, and welcome to the Anatomy of Knitting, episode 63. My name is Erin, and I'm going to be your host. Today is March 19th, it's a Thursday, and it is a beautiful sunshiny day. You can probably see by the reflection of some light in my glasses. A beautiful sunshiny day here in Cork, Ireland. I am an American expat living here with my husband and my two children, and I've got a fair amount of stuff to talk about today. We'll do the week in review. We'll talk about what my work's in progress, and then we'll talk about some sewing. And I have a fairly big sewing segment, so that's at the end. If you're not interested, you could just skip it. Let's see. I was going to say hello and welcome to all of the new viewers and say thank you for checking me out. And also a hello and welcome back to previous viewers. So let's get started. And I apologize for how washed out I look. I have I have drapes, so I have a blind that comes down. I have that halfway down on the window, and I have the drapes open about that much, and this is this is how I look. So we're going to make it work. Hopefully you'll be able to see the colors of the things I'm going to show you. That's more important than having a washed out Erin. So let's get started. Got my show notes here. So the week in review. So this time last week I had just gotten back from, had I just gotten back? I don't even remember when I recorded last week. But I went to the breast clinic, like I told you, and I'm still waiting to hear back from those test results that I had. I had a core biopsy of what they think is probably a fibroid adenoma or something like that. So in case there's a quick shot, I have had to take my phone, but it's on vibrate, so hopefully we won't be interrupted. And I'm fully expecting some good news. So, excuse me. I also finished my driving lessons today. So as part of getting a driver's license over here in Ireland, coming from the States, I am not allowed to go to the driver's license issuing building and saying, hello, my name is Erin. I have had a license for 20 years. This is my American license. Please exchange it for an Irish license. I can't do that. Apparently, it's because Ireland's a part of the EU, they have to go with the EU standards about getting driver's licenses. And because in the States, licenses are issued by at a state level, and there's no federal standards that they all have to follow. Apparently, that's why I can't just exchange my driver's license over. And I think the opposite is true. I don't think I can exchange my U.S. driver's license over. Or I don't think if I came with an Irish driver's license, I'd be able to exchange it for a U.S. driver's license, which is crazy because the amount of training you have to go through to get a driver's license over here is incredible. So some of you who've previously watched know that I had to take a driver theory test, which is basically it's the multiple choice test that you have to take before you can start your essential driver training. Once you've passed that, which I didn't miss a question, you then have to take a minimum of 12 hours of instruction. And I've currently finished 10 hours. And it's kind of annoying to have to do this. Basically, because I've had a driver's license for 20 years, what the instructor is doing is just, we're doing like these mock driving tests, and he's familiarizing me with all of the routes that they take. They start from a little area called Wilton here, like the cake dyeing name, and just apparently all of the routes that they take have to be within about 35 minutes. And he was a former driving tester, and so he's just trying to familiarize me with all of the routes. And I get so hard on myself when I do this driving training, but he's confident that I'm going to pass on the first try. I'm fairly confident that I'm going to pass on the first try. This will actually be my first ever like driving exam with me and some person I don't know in the car. Because when I first got my license, the state of Florida offered driver's ed in schools, so that's how I got my first driver's license. Is I took driver's ed, and so it didn't feel as high pressure as this does. And then also as part of the exam, they don't just take you on like a route driving around. What happens is that you arrive at the driver testing facility, and you go in, you meet your tester. They ask you, I think it's like 5 or 6 questions that you have to answer about rules of the road. Like one of them here is who are the people who can legally stop you on the road? And the answer is the Gardaí, which is the police force here. That's their name. A school crossing guard, which they call lollipop ladies. I think it's typically women, so lollipop ladies. Let's see, construction person, with the stop and go sign, customs officials, and shepherds who are moving along a flock of animals. So it's questions like that they'll ask, or like, what time do you have to, what times are lighting up hours, or what do you do if you are dazzled by headlights? It's funny to have to learn the terms for things over here. And once you answer those questions and then you identify some of the road signs, then you go out to your car. And I have only ever driven on an automatic, so I'll be using the automatic that we have to test. And then you go out to your car. They'll make sure that you have your L plate, which is like this square with a big red L on it, on your car, so they can, like, other people on the road can see that you're just a learner driver. They'll ensure that your tax disc and your insurance disc are up to date, to make sure that you've paid your car taxes and you're insured to drive. And then you have to open the bonnet, which is the hood over here, and you have to identify where you check the oil and where you put in more oil and where the brake fluid is and where coolant goes, and what's the other one? There was something else. Oh, power steering fluid if you need it. And then you close the bonnet, and then they have to ensure that your signals and your headlights and your fog lights all work, and you have to identify how you put your hazards on, how you clear your windscreen, which is the front glass. You have to, there's all of these things you have to do even before you start doing the driving part of the test. So it's very involved here, and which makes me surprised that I can't just, if I go back to the States and my U.S. driver's license is expired, that I'd have to do the whole rigmarole. So, yeah, I have my last lesson this Saturday. And then what I have to do, apparently drivers here have to have their learner's permit for 6 months before they can sit for their driving test. But because I have had a driver's license elsewhere, I can write to, some part of the driver's people, driver's licensing training, something or other. I don't know exactly who I need to write, but my husband's done it, and he can point me in the right direction of what website I need to go to find this information. But I have to send them my actual license, which seems stupid because what happens when I'm driving around here and I don't have the license? I have to send them a driver history that I need to purchase and get from the state of Washington. And then I can ask for a waive of that 6-month waiting period. And then I have to get in the queue to get my driver's test. And apparently when my husband was going for it, it was like a 2-month wait. So if you tried to schedule one on a certain day that worked for you, you would have to wait 2 months. I'm going to do what he did and get on the please call me if there is a cancellation list. So I think once he did that, he only had to wait 2 weeks to get his test. So that's the process. So as soon, probably this evening, I'll see if I can get the state of Washington driver's history, and that way I can be ready to send them all of the stuff I need to send them to have them waive my 6-month waiting period. So I can send that out on Monday. Knock knock, hopefully. And then the other thing that happened this week was St. Patrick's Day. And I was kind of intrigued to see how things were over here, because I know how they are in the States. We didn't actually really participate much in St. Patrick's Day this year. The boys are still very creatures of routine, and we need to ensure that they take their naps because they are, I'm not going to say terrors, but they're challenging when they don't get their nap. There were plenty of parades and things to do here. We decided not to do them because the Cork City Parade started at 1 p.m. and the Ballincollig Parade started at 3, and the boys typically don't go down for their nap at around 2. So we decided to forego doing any St. Patrick's Day events this year. That probably will not be the case next year. This time next year we'll probably be deciding, well, we'll have already decided if we're going to stay another year. But if we have two years of the agreement that we have. That didn't make sense, but we agreed to be here 2 years minimum. Our first year here will end I think it's the 14th of April. So we're coming up on our first year anniversary. So we'll know next St. Patrick's Day whether or not we'll be staying any more time. So, and the boys should be a lot better about not consistently needing a nap, or skipping it won't be as dramatic as it is now. So we'll see. Anyway, what we did instead was go to Clonakilty, which is in West Cork. So Ireland has counties, and there's Cork County and Cork City. We live in a suburb or a village of Cork City called Ballincollig. And then Clonakilty is west of us in West Cork. And what's in Clonakilty is a model railway village. And so we decided to try and take the boys to the model railway village. I was a little nervous about taking them because I wasn't sure how they'd react to it. I was a little concerned that they wouldn't get it, like they weren't old enough. But it turned out to be an amazing time, and they loved it. The model railway village it's not that big. It's it's like half the size of Costco for the Americans out there to kind of get the square footage layout. And they had the model railway village out, and it's all outside. They had the model railway village, and then there was also a play area for toddlers that the boys got to enjoy. there, you could decide to eat there in a train car. They didn't exactly have things that the boys would have really enjoyed eating, so we decided not to eat there. And yeah, it turned out to be an adventure for them. They loved it. Malcolm was constantly running. We got there a few minutes after they opened and had the place to ourselves for a good 45 minutes before one other family came in, and the boys were just running back and forth, and they were following the trains, and the trains weren't like, like the little trains. They were like, I don't know, maybe this big, maybe about like the steam engine was about a foot long. So they were decent size, and when they were having so much fun, and they had some buttons that you could press to do things. The ones at the Clonakilty place didn't really seem to do anything, unfortunately. But while the boys were having fun doing that, I turned to Bernie and I said, we should plan to go to Hamburg in December or January, or sometime when they're closer to 3, because Miniature Wunderland is a model railway village, like supersized. So it's mostly just the smaller trains, but it's amazing. I think it was created by 2 gentlemen who were big model railway fans. They have taken over a good chunk of a building. They're located on 2 floors, and it's just model railway village after village after village. And they have different areas. So there's they have the U.S., where they have Las Vegas and Cape Canaveral and Area 51 and I think the Grand Canyon. And there's buttons everywhere that you can push and have things happen. So one of the buttons I remember, you could have the space shuttle take off. They have different areas of Europe. So they have Paris. They have, I think they're building parts of Italy now. I don't remember if Rome was there. I think it was. But it's just amazing, and they've created since I've been there, they've created an airport with airplanes that actually take off and land. And it's an amazing experience. My husband and I went when we took our trip to Germany. I think it's closer to 5 years now. That was 5 years ago. We went because we saw, I think it was a James May Toy Story. James May is one of the hosts of UK's Top Gear, and he also has this other series where he talks fairly in depth about some of the toys that were popular over here, and then usually kind of does a challenge involved with it. So one of them was plasticine, and they made plasticine flowers for, I want to say, the Victoria Garden Show. Let's see, what's the other ones? They made a Lego house. There was another one about Action Man that I saw recently, and Action Man is like a supersized G.I. Joe. And the one that they did about trains, they were trying to actually have a model train go from one village to another village in the UK. So it was like 10 miles. A model train had to go 10 miles. And they had several different trains going at the same time. So there was like a steam train, there was a high-speed train, and I think there was one more. I don't remember what was going. But we watched that, and he had the gentleman who run Miniature Wunderland sort of guide him a little bit, be a mentor. And so that's how Bernie and I found out about Miniature Wunderland. And so when we decided that we were going to Germany, 5 years ago, I turned to Bernie and I said, we're going to have to go there, because I won't hear the end of it if we don't. So, yeah, that was fun. And I think the boys would really enjoy Miniature Wunderland. So we're 20 minutes in. I need to talk about some knitting and take a drink. So I don't have any finished objects for you this week, unfortunately. But I do have 2 works in progress. Reach back and get those. The first one is from the Amy Christoffers New American Knits. It is the Hopper cardigan. Get it so there's minimum glare. Okay. The last time I spoke, I had finished the body, I had set in the sleeves, and I needed to work on the button bands. And I have and for the life of me, I cannot get this color to be accurate, and I'm moving the camera. My apologies. Let me put that over there. This is a more vibrant color than you can see here. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, it's just not showing up as accurate, but it's very pretty in person. I have knit 1 button band. This is the side that the buttons go on. And I am currently in the process of knitting the second button band with the buttonholes. And the way that the pattern tells you how to do the buttonholes is just, I don't like it. It says like, it's a 6-button cardigan. Decide where you want the buttons, before you even start the button band, and put a piece of waste yarn or a stitch marker there. But several years ago, I found an amazing tool to help you out with doing button bands. And that, whoopsie, sorry, don't need to do that, is an app on my phone. It is called Button Wizard, I believe. So I have apps that are just knitting and spinning, and the one we're looking for is the Button Wizard. And it's all one word. And what you do is you decide if it's horizontal or vertical, if your band direction is. So if you're knitting the Hopper cardigans band would be horizontal. You can decide if you want to do a 1-row, a 2-row, or an eyelet buttonhole. I typically like the 1-row buttonhole. You put in the number of buttonholes that you want. Oh, the glare. There we go. Maybe back a little bit. You put the number of stitches on your needle, how many buttonhole stitches you actually want, so basically the size of the buttonhole, and how many stitches before the first buttonhole and how many stitches after the last buttonhole. And then once you have that, you hit calc. There we go. Calc. And basically, it gives you all of the instructions for how to do a buttonhole. And usually there's, there's the cable cast. It gives you the instructions for the cable cast on because that's part of the 1-row buttonhole. And this is the summary of your final numbers. So the buttonhole directions, so you start on your buttonhole row, you work 7 stitches in pattern, you work with a buttonhole as follows: bring yarn to front, slip next stitch purlwise, take yarn to back, slip next stitch as if to purl, lift first slip stitch on the right needle over the second. And then you repeat that as many number of times as you need to make the size of the buttonhole that you want. And then you're doing a 1-row buttonhole. And then it has you work the next 15 stitches in pattern after you finish your buttonhole, and then you repeat from the beginning, from the buttonhole to repeating the 15 stitches, as many buttonholes as you need. So this has taken all of the guesswork out of doing buttonholes for me. Basically, I just have to decide the size of buttonhole I need and how many buttons I want, and this does the rest of it for me. Takes all the guesswork out of it. I love it. It's awesome. I guess the only thing that you can't, I know that the Knit More girls recommend having a buttonhole at the apex of your bust, just because that's where things are going to gape. That I can't really control with this, but I usually ask to put on 7 or 8 buttons, and one of those buttons is usually pretty close to that. So I'm currently on the buttonhole row. I need to decide, I think I'm going to want more than 6 buttons on the sweater because I lengthen it. I'm thinking 9 buttons. And I always like to do an odd number of stitches, just because that always seems to work out a little bit better and look a little bit better, rather than the even number of buttons. So, and I don't have any buttons, but there's you've probably heard, if you're a long-time watcher and listener, you've heard me talk about the Button Emporium, which is this amazing store in Portland that has just a ton of buttons. And there's a place that's similar to that. It doesn't look as nice inside. It's just the buttons. It doesn't look as pretty. And it's called Cork Button Company. And I think I can order. It's hard for me to get downtown usually, so I think I can order from them online. So if I don't have anything to do next week, maybe I'll go into town before I record a podcast and find some buttons. Or maybe I'll order online. So that's the Hopper cardigan. And I meant to rewatch part of the podcast about this next item because I couldn't remember how many squares I had knit. And I should have watched it, but I didn't. So I'll just wing it. I know I had at least these 3 done because I remember talking about this one. But just in case, I added all of these. Maybe I was up to the Volmisa. I don't remember. But again, this is Jess's sockhead. This is Malcolm's sockhead. This is yarn I used to knit a sweater for my niece. This is yarn I used to knit Nate's sockhead. This is some Volmise. This is more Volmise. This is some handspun I used to knit hand warmers out of. This is Fruju sock yarn, which I used to make a sockhead hat for me, but which has now been taken by my son, Nathaniel. He loves the sockhead. This is Woolen Vine Yarns Wicked. This was also used to make a sockhead hat for me. And this is Sheep's Spot, Still Waters Run Deep. This is her sock base, the sustainable merino fingering. And I use this to make the mitts, the foraging mitts. Oh goodness, I don't remember. I think it's the foraging mitts. Let me just confirm that for you. Yes, it is foraging mitts. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 squares total. I'm going to try and do this row probably the width that I want the blanket to be, and then I'll start adding more rows on. And I'm doing this, I'm trying to do this without too many seams, so I'm picking up and knitting for the miter. And this is super easy. There's a bunch of patterns on Ravelry that you can use to make this. Most of the ones have the squares being on point like that, with the miter running vertically. I kind of like the appearance like this better. But basically what you do, it's 39 stitches total to make a square. And when I have them connected here, this is the cast on side. I cast on 19 stitches and then I pick up 20 stitches here to get the 39. And then I knit one row, and then for the second row I slip one because you're on the front of the work. Slip one, knit 17, slip 2 stitches, knit one, pass the 2 slip stitches over to create that centered decrease, and then knit on. And then every wrong side row you slip one and knit, and then every right side row you decrease. It's initially 17, so you decrease 1 stitch So the second decrease row is 16, the third decrease row is 15, and on and on and on and on. And I find once you've done one of them, you can see how, oh, that one's kind of hard to see, how the decreases all start lining up. And you can see that a lot better when you're knitting. So that's how that's going, and it's gonna get more fun. I think once I do, well, I guess it would depend on which side I picked up from. If I picked up from, I guess if I went this way, and I have the miter going that way. No, this would have to be the beginning of the blanket. So I'd have to cast on 19 and do 20 here, so I can have the miter go that way. I was thinking that at one point I'd be picking up both sides, but I don't think that's gonna, I guess if I started on this side, then this one I'd pick up, no, I'd still, well, once I get to that point, I'll have it figured out. Anyway, so that's the sock yarn blanket that I'm working on, and you can see that that hand spun, the gauge is a lot thicker than the other yarns. I thought it was mostly fingering, but whatever, it's not going to bother me. It looks beautiful. I think this was a Vesper superwash merino fiber that I spun, and then made those arm warmers out of. I should find those. Those are downstairs. Maybe next week. Maybe I'll find those next week for you. So those are all my works in progress. The rest of this is going to be mostly sewing. So if you're not interested in that kind of thing, that's fine. I hope you have a good week, and if you're interested, excellent. I have been sewing a lot since I got back from the knitting and stitching show, mostly because I do want to make that Toft cowl first, but I don't actually have size 15 needles, which are 10 millimeters, so I have to figure out a source for that, because I don't have a local yarn store in Ballincollig. Sad. So I either have to go into the city or order online, and I just haven't found a good online source yet. So I think the first thing that I'll show you, I told you that I would have stuff from the, I'm participating in the Modern Irish Bee, which is done by the Modern Quilters of Ireland. Every month, the Queen Bee decides what block everybody's going to do. In the past, I've done house blocks. I've done, I guess the best way to describe last month's block was more of a mosaic block. It had solid color frames and then small squares of fabric. But this month's block was more, I think it's called the Starburst block, and it's a tutorial that you can find on YouTube by, I think it's Men Who Sew, or Man Who Sews. Let me look. I have it saved and flagged in my email. This is The Burst Block Quilt, an easy quilt tutorial with Rob Appel of Man Sewing. So you can search that on Google or YouTube. It's one of the Missouri Star Quilt Company's video tutorials. And so this was the block of the that I had to make for the month, and I had such a hard time. What you do is you take a 10-inch square of Peltex, and pardon me for leaning out. I wasn't intending to show you this, but it makes a lot more sense if I actually show you what I have to work on. So you take Peltex, which is a stabilizer, and you create a 10-inch square, and then you cut that 10-inch square into these, and imagine it's two sides, I can really kind of only hold one side, unfortunately, with my hand. Here we go. So you take that Peltex and you cut it up into these wedges based on some math, which you can find in the tutorial. And then once you have this, you put this first one, this biggest one, on a 10 by 10 inch square and cut on the lines. And then you add colored fabric and place your template, cut, sew, place your yada yada. And what it creates is this. And I kept having the problem of I'd put the fabric on the wrong way so it wouldn't cover what I needed it to cover. And so I'd have to rip it and re-sew, flipping the fabric around. I was supposed to create 2 of these blocks, and so this is number 1 with solids, and this is number 2. There we go. I was like, are they not going the same way? No, they're going the same way. And when you sew them together, it's supposed to look like, if you imagine if there's 4. It's supposed to look like a starburst coming up from the center. So I'm happy to be done with these. I hated this. I hated. And I don't hate a lot of things, but I hated this. So it's done. I've shown it to you. I can send it off. Goodbye. I no longer have to see you. One of the classes that I took in London was the Japanese rice bag tutorial. What it is that it's this very pretty little bag. Apparently these used to be hand sewn out of scraps, and people would put offerings for when they went to temples, usually rice in here, and then they would take it to the temple and leave it there. It's excellent for maybe adding, maybe putting a little Christmas gift in. And so we had our IPS meeting this past week. Oh, I was going to show you the block that we made from that, but I think it's downstairs. You'll have to wait. I'll have to show you later. I'll have to show you next week, unfortunately. Anyway, the speaker that we had to drop out due to illness. I guess she had the flu. So they needed a demonstration toot suite. And so I was able to create this one up. It is completely reversible. It is made from 5-inch charm squares. And if you're interested in making something like this, I created a handout and posted it to the IPS website. So if you'd like to make a bag, you go to ipscork.com. There's a header at the top that has things like about and the block of the month and a few other things. But the one that you want is the demonstration resources, and the handout so you can create this bag for yourself is under the demonstration resources tab, and it's under the March 2015 meeting. So, and it gives you instructions how to make this fabric bead. I had one on the other side, but I didn't sew it down too well, and I have to repair it. It's right here. But it uses charm squares, which are 5-inch square blocks, squares of fabric. You could probably easily upsize this to even be like a 10-inch square bag to put bigger things in. And then you have cording or ribbon that you the first side you put in here and not, and the second side you do just the opposite way, and then that way when you pull them, it pulls tight. So that's something to check out if you're interested, if you want to make little gifty things. Put my little fabric bead in there to repair. That's that. What else do I have to show you? I guess I can show you the quilt that I'm working on right now. It is the Night Sky quilt. This is by Jaybird Quilts. I am making this in preparation to get the courage to make the Aviatrix medallion, which is that. That is going to be my next big project. Crazy pants. But I had never worked with diamonds or triangles or basically any other shapes that were other than squares and rectangles. So this is what I'm doing. I'm doing the lap-sized, and it has excellent colored directions. Tells you how to cut everything, and it's very clear. There's layouts for the size of the quilts that you're doing. I'm doing the lap one, which is this one. Although it's so spectacular to see in person, I'm tempted to do a king one for our bed. I have fully finished the blue colors. So in order to avoid Y seams, you sew together half blocks, like so. And I'm not going to give this special sauce away, so I'll just show you. You'll see there's triangles, there's diamonds, and then so you sew them into strips like that, and then you get it so the colors line up. So you'll see that this one's got the turquoise and the dark blue, and then it'll create. You got to take the seam allowance out because that's going to disappear when I sew them together, and it's just going to be this beautiful star. So spectacular. I have all the blue ones done. They're ready to be laid out, and I have a pile of the rest. So there's green ones, there's purple ones, and there's orange and yellow ones. And I did this yesterday during nap time. I got the top ones, the top sashing sewed on. I have to press out the side sashing, and then I have to apply the other side sashing. So I'll be doing that while after I finish talking to you. And that is all of my sewing, and that is all of the podcast. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you for watching. If you would like to follow me on Instagram, I'm EKSRN2002 there. I post usually during the week. Not consistently every day, I don't post, but every other day probably I can say I post. I'm knitting RN on Ravelry. You can find the website for The Anatomy of Knitting at theanatomyofknitting.com. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can email me at theanatomyofknitting@gmail.com. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you for watching. Sorry I'm all whited out. I'm very pale and very proud of that. So I'll see you next week, and I shall talk to you then. So have a good week, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Go slow, Malcolm.
Wait. Malcolm, stay down. What does the train say?
Big train! Look, big train!
So excited.